My name is Rebekah Borucki. I have a website called BEXLIFE.com. I have a book called You Have 4 Minutes to Change Your Life. And tomorrow, the link is in the video description, but tomorrow, Wednesday, June 20th, is the first day of the You Have 4 Minutes to Change Your Life book club on my Patreon platform. So for $7 a month, if you don't know what Patreon is, it's a subscription monthly way to connect with me and to support my work. But at the $7 level, super cheap, you get all kinds of exclusive content, but you also get to be part of the weekly book club, which starts tomorrow. It is live streamed. It's really, really fun. It'll be there for you to watch if you can't make it, but I encourage you to be there at 1 p.m. But yeah, link is in the video description. If you have any questions about Patreon, if you don't know what it is, again, it's just like any other subscription service that you probably already have: Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, grocery delivery services. But put your questions in the comments and I'm happy to answer them for you. Hello, Haley. Hello, Shannon. Thank you for the pause up. So tell me where you're from too. I'm always curious where you guys are from. So as you're coming in, your name, which I see, where you're from, and remember to put those paws up in the air, which is the international sign that you watch BEXLIFE here on Facebook at 11:11. I wasn't here yesterday because I'm writing my next book, Managing the Motherload. That's another bonus that I have on Patreon. You get to pre-read, be an advanced reader, and provide feedback for my next book. And there is some juicy stuff in there. I'm actually posting something else either later today or tomorrow, another section of the book that you'll be able to check out. The introduction, or at least half the introduction, is already up there. But yeah, be an advanced reader and help me write this dang book that's due in September. I have been reading, I'm in the middle of, actually I'm listening to Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown. I hate taking showers. I feel like they're such a waste of time. I'm so type A and I get so anxious if I'm not doing something. I hate taking showers. So I bought myself an $18 Bluetooth speaker to keep in my shower, a waterproof Bluetooth speaker, so that I can listen to books while I'm in the shower. And my chickens are laying eggs, so they're being super loud right now. I'm outside. You're all done? They make so much noise while they're laying. So I've been listening to Braving the Wilderness, and the first part of the book is all about her feeling like she never belonged in her family, really struggling with belonging someplace, and this was like a great pain of hers. And why I related to it so much, if you don't know my story, I am the product, my birth is a product of an extramarital affair. So my mother had an affair with a black man, and I am the product of that. So my father's black, my mother's white. She was married to a white man. They were planning on giving me up for adoption and placing me for adoption. And at the very last minute, everything was signed, hospital paperwork, everything. My parents' names are not even on my birth certificate because of this. At the very last moment in the hospital after I was born, her husband, the man who ended up raising me, demanded to see me and decided to keep me. Now, it's a very lovely story. He was an amazing person for doing that. He kept me and he raised me as his own. But you can imagine that there was some fallout from that. There are resentments surrounding my birth and my existence. So I had a lot of shame associated with the way I looked, who I was, where I came from, and I had to deal with this feeling of not belonging. So Brené talks about in the book the idea or the theory that comes from her years of research that if you don't belong in your core family, and it could be about, like, for her it was that she wasn't a popular star athlete and she just felt like she never fit in that way. If you don't belong with the people that you're supposed to belong with, the people that you sprang from, or at least you were raised in the environment that you were raised in, then how could you possibly feel like you belong anywhere else? And so for me, it's always been a deep longing to belong somewhere else. And I have a lot of stuff that comes up around that, like doubting myself and being hypercritical of myself and feeling that other people are critical of me or they're judging me. So she talks about this quote by Maya Angelou about, true freedom coming from not belonging anywhere. And I understood its meaning right away. And Brene struggled with it for a little while because she was still in that place of wanting to belong. But I understood it as allowing yourself to detach from having to belong somewhere. Only belonging to yourself and feeling complete and worthy in your authentic self. And Brene's husband in the book said something really beautiful. And I wrote about this in my journal, which is also on Patreon. I have a daily journal that I also put on Patreon. But he said that you belong anywhere that you decide to show up as your authentic self. And that really resonated with me. And I realized that that's something that has been my practice. When I show up like on these live broadcasts, especially in my group coaching, in my one-on-one coaching, when I show up, when I speak at my live events or I host events at my house, in that capacity, I am the most successful because I'm allowing myself to shine. I'm not worried. I'm not putting myself in someone else's container. I'm creating the container. And that's what I want to offer you. In places or in ways that you feel like you don't belong, how can you create your own container so that you can feel that sense of belonging? Not necessarily to someone else, but to yourself. And not being beholden to someone else, but only being beholden to your own dreams, your desires, your expectations. Journaling is a great way of doing that, by the way. A very, very simple, easy, no-cost way of doing that. Expressing yourself fully, especially outside the expectation that someone else is going to read it, but expressing yourself fully and giving yourself permission to have that expression without judgment, even self-judgment. That I'm just putting my thoughts and my feelings out there without any burden or fear that someone else is going to see this. And I'm going to express myself fully and see how you shine in that space. And so my practice is to take those private moments and to bring them out into the public and take my containers, my private containers, and create public containers where I still am making the rules, I'm setting the boundaries, and I'm expressing myself completely as I am. And I'll tell you, even with these live broadcasts, I eventually fall into the groove, but there's that pang in the beginning of, I gotta get this right. I gotta make sure that I say all the right things. I gotta make sure that I go through my checklist and, that people are gonna receive it, and I'm not gonna mangle my words, and I'm not going to forget what I need to say, and I'm not going to appear like an idiot. So even with these, I go through that, and I have to, there's a practice that I share and I'm writing about right now in, I believe it's chapter 2 of my book. Yes, it's chapter 2 of my book. That I'm covering this really great 3-step practice, this little mini activity for mindset that I'm sharing in my book, and I do it every single morning so that I avoid not expressing myself and not creating those containers and not showing up for those containers in those spaces. So Jerry says, morning, hello, and he says, not feeling like a total fake outsider. So that's in response to what I'm saying, of something I said, and I don't know what I said, but I get that feeling of feeling like a fake outsider. And that's why even when I'm entering different spaces, like tonight I have a dinner party with a very, very, very famous and renowned meditation guide. And I could so easily fall into the space of me not being worthy, me not being enough, me thinking that she's gonna think, which is so crazy because she's like this amazing enlightened being, but think that I'm like a loser. I can totally put myself into the place of feeling like an outsider. But the talk back to that is, the response to that is, that negative inner dialogue is, of course I belong there, because what I've done and the work that I do supports me every single day. And while I might not be as famous or as celebrated or as experienced as she is, which is 100% fine, I have created a container that I feel very proud of, and I've done work that has really worked for me and other people. And if I continue to do that work, then I am in pure and well-intended service to the world. So I have to have that conversation, though. There's that negative inner dialogue. There's that negative message that comes from that voice that we all have inside of us, that lies, that tells us a lot of lies. And it's our job to speak truth back to that voice. And that's where you can also find the courage to put yourself out there, and also the confirmation that you do belong by stating the facts of the matter, of who you are for real, of what's going on for real. Like, we'll say things that have never happened. Like, we make predictions. Like, I'll make a prediction about this dinner party of this woman thinking that I'm a complete jerk. And that didn't even happen. So I have to speak back with the truth. I have to speak back with facts. Stuff that's happened, evidence that I already have, that I'm enough, and the truth of who I believe myself to be and how I can show up. So it's scary. It's super scary, especially if you deal with anxiety, especially if you have a past that included mental, verbal, physical abuse, where people have hurt you, or they've pushed you aside, or they've neglected you, especially if you have any of that. Especially if you freaking went through high school in America, or anyway, I can't speak for other places, but, you know, with bullying and feeling like you can't express yourself fully, or if you've ever felt on the fringe of anything because of the way you look, or your sexuality, or your ethnic background, or whatever. If you've ever felt like an outsider in a place that was supposed to feel safe, you're gonna have problems feeling like you fit in going forward. I get that, but you can't live in that. So what I say is, find out what you're good at. Find out what makes you feel good. Just what makes you feel good. You know, talking, writing, creating, giving advice, being a shoulder to cry on. And then create a safe place for you to be able to engage in that work or that practice or that feeling. You create the container and stop trying to put yourself in other people's containers. Because it won't work. It's like you have to write that version of you. You have to write your life. You have to write how you want to share with the world and how you want to engage with the world. You have to be the creator of that space. There are many, many people who fit in well. There are people that go into boxes and it's just where they belong. But that's really not an excellent path or a supportive or healthy path for a creative person, for a person who has suffered and healed and wants to get a message out into the world. So you create that own space. I do it here in these little live broadcasts. I do it in my books. I do it on Patreon. I do it in my private Facebook group. There's links below for all of that. And I'd love to hear how you have created your own spaces and where you do feel most comfortable and where you do thrive and where you do shine. Or if you haven't, where would you like to? What would you like that space to look like? What would you like to do? So that you don't have to belong somewhere else. You belong to yourself and the thing that you've created. You're only beholden to the life that you've written for yourself. So do that. Respond to that. Let me know about that. Also, before I go, there are some special links in the video description. There is a national humanitarian crisis. I want to say it's not national, it's international, but we're the problem. Humanitarian crisis going on right now within our borders if you are in the United States. If you are not in the United States, there's still ways that you can help. Money, it'd be amazing. There are organizations listed in my video description right now who are on the ground and helping families who are being separated at the Mexican-U.S. border. I want you to click on one of those links and give what you can. No shade for giving $1. In fact, I celebrate you. Give whatever you can. $1, $2, give up a cup of coffee, or if you're so inclined, give up as much as a month's rent or mortgage, whatever you got, give, please. So those links are in my video description. Click on the links, do something every single day to help somebody else. But right now today, I ask you to direct your funds towards these organizations. Bonus, if you're in or around New Jersey and you'd like to come to my vision board birthday bonfire epic release celebration event for my 40th birthday that's happening on July 21st at my home in my studio, the Bliss Inn here in New Jersey, you can get a seat if you donate the amount of admission, the price of admission, which is $59 for members, $69 for non-members, like people who've never coached with me and have never been to the Bliss Inn before. If you donate the $69 to one of those organizations, I will give you a free spot. People have already capitalized on that. I'm very excited about it. So that's something, it's a cool way to give and also celebrate my birthday with me and get a vision board workshop and celebrate with a bonfire in my backyard. It's gonna be really fun. Love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Share this video if you feel so inclined. Remember to click those links in the video description. Join me on Patreon for all the good stuff. Book club starts tomorrow. Book club starts tomorrow. And live group coaching for my Bliss Circle on Patreon starts on July 1st. So be there or be a rigid, straight, boring, inflexible shape, which is a square. Love you guys. Bye.
Hi, I'm Rebekah Borucki, founder of BEXLIFE.com and author of You Have 4 Minutes to Change Your Life. Have you always wanted to try meditation, but you didn't know where to start? Are you ready to get all those benefits you've been hearing about, but you're convinced that you don't have time, your head is way too busy, or you're just not spiritual enough? Well, I have some